Hello and welcome to Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst on CBS Sports. On today's episode, we have a special guest interview today. Before we get into everything, a quick reminder to subscribe on YouTube for exclusive interviews whenever we go live at youtube.com/Attacking Third. Our special guest today is former U.S. international and professional with Angel City's front office, newly promoted to general manager of Angel City. We've got Angela Hucles Magano. How are you doing today, Angela?
I am fantastic because I'm speaking with you too. Love the pod. Love what you do. So much fun. Thank you for having me on.
We're so hyped to speak with you, a legend of the game such as yourself, and it's your first time on the show with us, and congratulations are in order. The new promotion to GM. How's the first week been so far in your new role?
It's been great. I think it's an interesting time to step into this position with the club that I've been with. Knowing that we're an expansion team and this is midseason. So I think still very excited though about the steps that we're taking forward and how we're really building and growing and developing this club and this organization as well.
So I want to learn a little bit more about this because when Angel City announced that you would be their new GM, they stated essentially a laundry list of duties that you would be taking over. The coaching, the first team, the player care, medical and performance, sports science, soccer operation, the wellness program, resources, development, management of teams, soon to be announced practice facilities in LA's. But as a GM, what does your day-to-day look like after this first week plus?
Yeah, I loved there was I think one of Yael Averbush's podcasts that she was speaking on, and when she said, I get it now with the role and the title of general manager, right? Because it's so general in terms of your scope and what you do. It's not a specialist in one thing, but it's really playing a part in every aspect of our first team, of our staff, of our, as we call in Angel City, our soccer house. And yeah, the day-to-day, I'm right now, I think also because my role previously as VP of Player Development and Soccer Operations, I was really on the day-to-day working with a different group of people. Now, not only am I working with that group, but I'm working with essentially like the other half of our soccer house and staff. So it's a lot of conversations right now. And, being in this role now, I'm really in charge of making sure that we're all pulled together, aligned, communicating effectively, going up, going down, what that looks like. And quite candidly, as a startup, it's starting to go back in now and put some of those processes in place, put some of the more of that structure in place that we just didn't have, the privilege of time to do going into this first season. So it's a little bit of that in terms of literally restructuring and what we've done with this move in my new role, but also doing the right things in terms of structure and process that can really expedite things, have more streamlined ways, more efficiencies, so that we're operating even more efficiently as a staff. And then that plays into our players as well. And it kind of lightens, their load, their atmosphere, because, things are happening at a different pace. And then they have even more ability to focus, right, just on the playing field. So it's definitely been a lot of conversation and communication right now.
So this has been, a switch in titles for you, the promotion going from a former VP of Player Development and Operations to a new GM. Was this a promotion that perhaps you were anticipating? I know it's been early that you've been on the job, but are there already similarities that you're seeing in what is, essentially your former title, now your current title?
Even a couple of years ago, I probably wouldn't have said that I could have seen myself as a GM one day. You maybe think it would be a little bit more obvious, but it really wasn't. I think I was excited to enter Angel City as an investor, joining up with some of my former national team players, being a part of that, the values being so in alignment with mine and what this organization stands for. And I truly think that, everyone who's been a part of this organization, they have an origin story of what brought them into Angel City. There's something very specific that drew us all into this environment because we are so purpose, mission driven, value oriented. And so with seeing that and literally seeing not just the talk, but the walk, first things Angel City's doing are community events. I show up to that because that's in alignment with things that I believe in terms of investing in our community and interacting with our community. And so that led into, me wanting to be more hands-on and having a full-time role with Angel City. And I think, by nature of what we're doing and how we're also just trying to make sure that we become more efficient when we can, and we do the things that we know we can control, and being able to recognize things, no matter when they are, middle season, end of season, beginning, being able to make those changes that are needed, and that, everyone feels are in the best interest of the club and for the player. So I think it's just very rewarding to be in an environment where, one, people can push and, you talked about what you saw in the release in terms of what I oversee. We like to dream big here and we like to be bold. And so I think very much in alignment with that, but, being able to put that all out there and say, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to make sure that we have the right resources and support to make everyone successful, and how that filters into, staff and players, and this whole organization. So for me, it's just been, I think, an exciting time to actually witness that real time.
You're not just witnessing it though, as GM, you get your hands dirty and in on all of the work, and in an effort to be bold in Angel City, there's got to be a wish list for you, whether it's a to-do list or a wish list. I want to know what is at the top of it for you as you enter this GM role.
Honestly, it's right now making the playoffs. It might not seem big and bold to other people, but I think as a first year expansion team, it's big and bold, and we're right there right now. And I think being able to say, like, yeah, we believe in this team, and all the different things that we've gone through just even to this point as a startup and an expansion team, these players are resilient, and that is so incredible to see how they show up and perform game after game. That's my big bold number one. We'll see in a matter of days and weeks, but that's definitely the first thing right there on it. Obviously a championship is big and bold. Realistically, does that happen in year one? I don't know. But yeah, I think we're going to go for that and see how far we can push that, because we do have that belief, and these players do have that resiliency. And yeah, there are other things that are coming in the future. But even knowing that there is a plan to build out a new training facility that is specifically for our first team and staff, I think it's not necessarily a big, bold one on my list that I put down there. It's already there for me. So I'm grateful for that too.
And in seeing that already on your list, what are the plans for the practice facility in LA for this first team?
Yeah, as you probably know, and my background was in real estate, sometimes it's finding a unicorn when we think about real estate, and especially when we're looking at training facilities that are going to be up to the right standard for a professional team. Land is, at a minimum in terms of availability. And so it's about identifying the right location. I'm not in the day-to-day of doing that part of the process right now, but have seen some different facilities, was able to see KC's when we just played them recently, and see what things do look like. And then having a plan, after that location is set, finalized, contract signed, of breaking ground. And, the hope is to have everything done, by 2024. So, things are lining up in terms of getting us to that point. There's still a lot to be done. We're not going anywhere anytime soon, but just knowing that legwork, groundwork is already in process and we're getting closer each day is really exciting.
I love hearing that. I mean, those are maybe some of the challenges of, navigating those types of things with a club in a big market, in a big, metropolis like LA, that might be different from some other, markets in NWSL. So that's always very insightful. I'd like to maybe sort of ask you to kind of maybe keep both hats on, both former player and current GM, because we're seeing more former players in front office roles throughout the league. You've mentioned, yeah, Oliver West, with Gotham. I know Cami Levin with Kansas City. There's players who have also sort of found themselves in coaching roles now throughout the league. But what are some of the challenges that maybe you've seen in kind of making that leap from former player to someone who's essentially at an administrative level now?
Yeah. For me, the biggest challenge, I think, is knowing what it does look like what the vision is and where I want us to get to and where I know, our organization wants us to get to, and not being there yet. I'm a little bit impatient. So I think, just knowing that everything's not set up, and it's not realistic, things take time to get there. So I think in the process of that, though, it's also taking a step back and understanding and having perspective of where we are and that we are in a good place. It's just not, to that big, bold, vision that I carry, for this club. But that's also part of the journey, right? In the process, and what makes winning a gold medal in Olympics so rewarding is because of the process and the journey and being able to do it together collectively as a team, collaboratively, while we're making an impact in the community, while we are selling out, stadiums for our games, and the players get to experience that. And so I think for me, the biggest challenge is really that constant reminder of, we're in the grind right now. We are building, we are growing, we're trying to lay the right foundation so that we are set for improvement and progress, at the right time. And just realizing that it is a journey, and that I can't have it all at once, and that's okay. But I think being able to show up and know that it's work and still enjoyable, I think is really special too.
So much of it is about the journey, and then the destination is that much sweeter when you struggle a little bit on the journey and the ups and downs you went through. So you've touched on this a little bit. You are a former professional, the WUSA, the WPS, with the US women's national team. How much in your role now as a GM do you touch back into those roots you have as a player, and in terms of understanding what players want now, or maybe how to go about your role as a GM?
Yeah, it's really interesting, because I feel very fortunate that I still am able to carry, the player perspective to a degree. Obviously it's been a while since I've been on the ground literally as a player. But I also appreciate that I do have a little bit of a different world experience than a player too. So, the experiences that I've had in corporate environments, in nonprofit environments, on boards, in environments with a lot of different people and a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different resources, and what that means and looks like. And then understanding the load, the player management, what the grind looks like for a player as a professional athlete. That's, not the glamorous stuff, but the day in, the day out. At least having an understanding, a perspective of that. I think also helping in the conversations that I have with players too, and being able to give context and perspective in a way that is a little bit more translatable, in terms of what happens on, the front office side, and some of the intricacies and the things that we are just not aware of as players, and we should not need to be, right? That shouldn't be the focus. People are in, their roles for specific reasons and purposes, to fulfill that. So I think all of those things I definitely bring in to this position. But honestly, I bring pretty much all my past, sports experiences into my life experience, no matter what role I'm serving, because of the valuable lessons that I really have been able to take from that and help me grow as, a person and professional.
I love that. I would imagine as both, and someone who invested with Angel City early on and now with the season underway and in your new role, you've had to watch a lot of soccer, I'm sure. So let's stay with that. The NWSL is celebrating its 10th year, expanded to 12 clubs, Angel City, one of them. And we're witnessing a very, very competitive season with several teams making a playoff push, Angel City included. So I want to ask you, let's talk about the game a little bit. How would you rate the level of play that you've watched this season and within this current era, compared to previous years or previous eras?
Yeah. And I know, and I think Lisa, you kind of touched a little bit on this too with your last question. Just, I mean, the professional player in our league is different than when I played, right? There are differences to how players approach the game, what they're doing, to prepare themselves to recover. There's a different mentality and professionalism around the sport, which is, I think, incredible to see. And so I rate it, and I rate where we are currently, 10th season. Honestly, being a part of the first two and having those both go away is just, I don't take that for granted and lightly, that the NWSL is now in its 10th season and going strong, and looking at expansion opportunities and investment interest from more sources than before. And there's an attention on our sport right now in this moment in time. And not just the sport, but women's football, right? And I think that is so nicely woven into how we've looked at even the U.S. women's national team and what they've stood for, use their platform to tie into what we're doing and how we're shifting as a league, how we're growing, what audiences show up, as fans, and who that really is, and the new fans that we're able to attract to the game. So, I mean, taking all of that into account, I will put us at an 8, because I think that is I'm looking at where we've come, right? And I'm not just in this league, but looking at the history of our sport. And yet, I think from 8 to like a 10, if we're going at a 10 scale, that 8 to 10, there's a lot in there, right? To make up and to get to that level. But I feel like we are, obviously also having Jessica Berman come in as our commissioner, and having more stability now too. So just having some of the changes, more leadership in the front office staff of the league. We're seeing the growth. We're seeing it in many different ways. And that's not lost on me. But I also think, there are things that we can continue to do to make sure that we're retaining and attracting the best talent in the world. And I think, from that 8 to 10, that's a big part of, making up that gap too.
I love that you put a legit score on it. That was
I'm
fantastic.
giving it to you.
I loved it. I loved it. Angela, I want to ask you about you as a player. You said you haven't played in a while, but when you look at this 8 score, this 8 rating that you're giving the current landscape of women's football, whether it's the NWSL or the US women's national team or the Angel City roster, which current players that are playing right now would you like to lace up your boots with and play alongside?
Oh man, current players. And I'm trying to think, make sure I'm not saying anything to avoid. I got to avoid tampering. I got to stay with my own players here. What they doing. I mean, I'm learning the rules here, people. So, it's actually, I know it's kind of a little bit cop out, but it's actually been funny and fun to see some of our staff kind of lacing up. Like, you look at an Luca who, I actually played against in the WPS, in that league, and seeing some of the former players coming out and lacing up. I did not do that. I played with the kids at one training session and did like a little pickup, but I have not done that with the team. But I'm trying to think of, let's see, I'm trying to give you like a real answer since I gave you a score.
So you were a midfielder when you played mainly professionally.
Yeah.
When you look at some of maybe the other midfielders on Angel City or even in the NWSL with the national team, is there someone that you're like, I'd love to play alongside them? They're going to feed me great balls, or I know I can rely on them.
You're in your prime,
I mean,
yeah, you're in your prime for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at Savvy, like Sav, like, I mean, that's the one player, like, especially with that type of question, like the way that she's able to precisely put it on a dime, her touch on the ball. I mean, feeding into, and, and I'm seeing myself running out of like a deeper position, going into the midfield to get that long ball service from Sav, because I know she's going to put it right where I need it. And maybe a little volley, over the top. I mean,
and it's a game winner, and it's a
and
game
that's what I see. And that's what's up here. Yeah. Thanks for pulling that out of me.
Well, listen, we always like to have a little fun, like towards the end of the interview. So we're like, well, what if we like pitched her some of these hypotheticals, and maybe she would like have some fun with it. And I'm going to ask you one more, because you're a GM now though. So it's a little bit different, right? And you're learning the rules. So I'm not going to try to like, lure you into anywhere you don't want to go, but you've played with some pretty epic legends yourself included. throughout your career, whether it was the club level or at the United States Women's National Team senior level. As a GM, which of those former teammates, if they were in their prime today, would you maybe like to have a
Shannon
conversation
Box.
with about? Didn't even let me finish the question. Shannon Box. That's music to my ears. You know, Shannon Box is one of my favorite players.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Shannon Boxy, and then it kind of goes back, to the last question, because I mean, one, I love playing with her. But she is a beast. And
Yeah.
I mean, she could just control that midfield. And
Yeah,
did it
Shannon
all.
Box for all the youngins, for all you young
I know.
ones listening and watching, like go find some Shannon Box highlights. You're talking about a player who absolutely
Fantastic.
changed that position for the team
Yep.
and what it meant for the
Yeah.
team. So I'm with you. I would love to see a Shannon Box in her prime with Angel City.
I
would love
gotta
to
go
see.
ask her. I gotta see who has her rights. Somebody probably still has her rights in the league. I gotta figure
Someone
that out.
has her rights. You
Yeah.
can get her in pink and black. You can
Yeah.
do it.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Well, this has been awesome. This has been exciting. So glad that you were able to join us today on Attacking Third, Angela. We always like to thank our listeners towards the end of episodes. So thanks everybody for joining along and following along on this. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Attacking Third for more, and subscribe to Attacking Third on youtube.com/Attacking Third. For Sandra Herrera, Lisa Roman, and Angela Hucles Magano, this was Attacking Third.